All right, everyone. Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks, Game Time, and PXG. It is Brian Hines back, as always, with Alex Barth, and we have a familiar face and special guest with us for our Rams preview tonight, and it is Mr. Kyles. So, Tayler, thank you for joining us tonight. You're getting a night off for Mike, which is always welcomed around these parts, but
SI's Mike Kadlick, Sports Illustrated's
Mike
Mike Kadlick.
Kadlick owns.
Posting about the Steelers. The hell?
Yeah, we're not talking about Russell Wilson around these parts, but we'll talk about a defender who sacked Russell Wilson 3 times last year in Denver. Right, he played them in Denver. Wasn't that Russell Wilson's last start? The Christmas.
No,
Eve
I think
night?
Stidham started. Was that? I thought that was
In
wasn't it?
Denver. That was a Russ game.
That was
a Russ
wasn't that
game?
Russ's last game, but it was
It's
Christian
crazy how
Barmore.
much that season is just.
Oh yeah, because of the money or something, right? They didn't want to pay him.
They had,
Right.
the
Remember they
injury-
sat him down, but no, it was Russ. You're right.
They had the injury guarantee, which is like why Daniel Jones is probably going to get benched now. But it was a Russ game, and Christian Barmore sacked him, got the hat trick. And we saw Christian Barmore at Patriots practice today for the first time since July, since he was diagnosed with those blood clots. So he is back in action here. DeMarcus Covington made sure to manage your expectations right now, right? They have this 3-week, 21-day window to activate him, but it's a good sign he's out there. So Barth, we'll start with you. Just A, are you expecting anything? And B, just positive signs to see him out there to start here at this point, right?
Well, I do think it's notable just that he didn't practice yesterday. He practiced today. I'm not the medical expert here. Maybe there was some reason he couldn't be cleared yesterday instead of today. But when you're talking about what's been 4 or 5 months, that one day, what changed from yesterday and today? They weren't in full pads today. They're not usually in full pads on Thursday. They're in full pads on Wednesday. So the fact he didn't take part in the fully padded practice, I think means temper your expectations for the short term. The fact he's back out there, period, is obviously very encouraging. I guess I should have started with that because with things like this, you don't know if the guy's ever going to be able to play again. And the fact he can get back out there and practice is super encouraging. And I mean, I'm at the point now where he's back, he's going to play for them again at some point. I don't think you take this step if you don't think you can play in the NFL again. So then it becomes about when, I can see the argument both ways. Do you just sit him down because the team's 3-7 and you don't want to risk him, having a further issue? Or do you just kind of use the last few weeks of the season as a ramp up? So he's not going into next year totally cold. I remember was it 2020 and it's a little bit different of a situation, obviously, because this was like a football injury. They drafted Cameron McGrone, who was coming off a late season torn ACL in college, and he wasn't going to play that year. And everybody knew he wasn't going to play that year, but they did activate him just so he could practice for 3 weeks. And then he got shut down again and he was out.
Didn't that happen to Joshua Bledsoe too, his rookie year?
I think they did with that sounds right. I think they did with Joshua Bledsoe as well. So is this a thing where for Barmore's conditioning and maybe even for his mental health, right? Just get him back on the field for 3 weeks. Why these 3 weeks? I couldn't tell you. Although I think they have 3 weeks until the bye, so it kind of lines up well.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's just I open up, like I said, I think we're going to see him in a Patriots uniform again in a game. Will it be this year? I'm still not sold on that. Again, I don't have the medical information, but this could be one of those things where they're just having him practice to get him out there and get him on the field. And it's about building up for 2025. But look, if he's good to go, I mean, you suddenly add him and Yannick Ngakoue to the pass rush. You're not adding them to much. I say that like there already was a pass rush without those guys, but it gives this defense a little juice. And if they're going to make some noise down the stretch, maybe if you're not fighting for a playoff spot, but that's something to rally around, getting Christian Barmore back. It helps you maybe get a win or two late in the year that just add to what you're building on for 2025.
Yeah, I think with the timeline, I feel like if it was just like practice, don't you think they would have done it later because there's a 3-week window? So they did it now, basically it'd be the bye week, and then he wouldn't be able to practice for the rest of the season.
So it's this game, right?
Yeah.
Let's do the math here. So they have this game.
December 5th or 6th, which is right in the middle of the bye week.
So,
right.
So he's going to practice this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
He'll then be part of practice next week leading up to the Dolphins.
And then the Colts.
And then have another week against the Colts. And then they usually practice the Wednesday of the bye week. They do a self-scouting practice.
So he has to be shut down before that. If he didn't actually play, right?
No, that Thursday, the Thursday of the bye week would be to run it out. So
it's kind of like a way to get 4 weeks of practice in plus 1 extra day of the bye week without having to play a game. It's considering they activate him in time.
Right. If they were to activate him, yeah, that's a good point, Brian. He'd have that extra week. So
yeah, so that's my thing where I do think he's going to play, because I feel like you'd want to do it towards the end of the season. Like if there was that ramp up, you'd want it to say, okay, like we've ended the season, we practiced, I got into some football shape, maybe, however you can carry that into the offseason. But it feels like with what the setup is now, like you guys said, he's going to be able to practice the next few weeks. I don't think it makes any sense to play him now. One, he needs to get in some kind of football shape. Now, as we've heard so many times, you can only do that by playing football, and we know that. This is a guy who hasn't been able to do any football activities for months. So it's going to be hugely valuable to basically have a month of just working out and doing all that to get that under your belt, because then you face a bit of a murder's row, right? You're playing the Bills twice, the Chargers, the Cardinals, all teams with dynamic mobile quarterbacks, all teams with excellent run games. And honestly, looking at the schedule, when we knew Barmore might be coming back, I was like, I hope it's then, because I know these guys are, they're trending upwards. Yannick Ngakoue, I think, is going to be an impact player for them. But that interior, you're still worried if, teams where you really don't know what's happening snap to snap. And Barmore dominated the Bills last year. He dominated the Chargers as well. And you know that he can, whether he knows what's coming or not, still be that kind of player. So it's exciting in that regard. But obviously the headliner, as DeMarcus Covington, put it very well, is that he's on the field. Like he has his career back. That's fantastic. So obviously, first and foremost, ecstatic for the player, but also for fans and the Patriots and all those people who were involved and invested. Yeah, it's very nice that they're likely going to get him back for that last month, because they got a lot of tough matchups.
Yep. Covington kind of said, right, this is step one, but it's a blessing we're at step one that he's even on the field, and we'll see how it goes there. So we can transition into this pass rush against the Rams and get into this Rams matchup. Barth, before we do that, I do have to ask, do you hate Sean McVay as much as his tight pants friend Kyle Shanahan, or are you more team Sean McVay? Because I know I don't know how his reputation is around New England, because he got kind of pants in that Super Bowl a few years back, but I'm a Sean McVay fan. Are you a McVay fan, or is he just another Shanahan in your eyes?
I mean, look, I think he kind of embarrassed himself when he went out and fangirled over Bill Belichick before that Super Bowl. Like, I get it. It's Bill Belichick, but also, like, you're here too, guy. Like, it's your Super Bowl too. Right. So, no, I don't, because I think Sean McVay has been able to adapt, right? The Sean McVay, I didn't like Sean McVay at first, but he's done a great job and he's one of the few guys in this tree that have done this. He's done a good job of kind of adapting and changing himself, changing his core strategy, making adjustments within games. I mean, you go back, first of all, he has a ring, which the other ones don't. He's the only one of these guys that has a ring, which the original's always better than the knockoff, right? I've seen players tweet about it. What's the line? It's like a Chrysler 300 looks like a Phantom till a Phantom pull up, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So like you go back to that year, there were like 3 or 4 different iterations of that Rams team that they kept changing as they had injuries and people figured them out. And on top of that, like he finished a close game, which that's where I get at. So the whole Shanahan thing, which again, nobody understands, is not that I think he's a bad coach. It's that I think the way he is talked about is not deserved for what he has accomplished. He has talked about, like, everybody always calls Justin Herbert like Mr. Hypothetical or the hypothetical QB. And some of that's like earned too, but well, if Jimmy Garoppolo just completed the pass, but like he's the one controlling it. So yeah, I do think that with Shanahan, it's like put up or shut up. McVay's won a chip. He's been to another. He's shown he can be a dynamic coach. So no, I think Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in football. I think the problem with guys like Kyle Shanahan and these other coaches is they are trying too much to replicate Shanahan or to replicate McVay, and they can't do it because McVay's a one of one. He is who he is, and you're just not like all the people that try to emulate Belichick for years and couldn't do it. So it's not to say McVay's on the same level as Belichick. I wouldn't put him there, but Kyle Shanahan is talked about as one of the best coaches in the league, despite not having won a title and routinely his team's choking in big games. Sean McVay's talked about one of the best coaches in the league, going to winning one Super Bowl, going to another, and his team is regularly one of the toughest to play. Even when they have a pile of injuries like they do right now, for the last 4 or 5 years, that's not a team you want to see on your schedule. He also went out and got the quarterback, which Shanahan refused to do. So
so in these arguments, I feel like we talked about like some version of this, like with McDermott and like, all right, you can't.
Well, McDermott's just a clown. McDermott's a whole other thing.
That's different. That's different, obviously. But like Shanahan, it's one thing if you're talking about Shanahan, if you're like, oh, he's one of the best coaches ever. Then it's like, no. You need to win titles before you get that conversation. In the modern era, he objectively is one of the best coaches. He's been to multiple Super Bowls. He's in the NFC Championship almost every game. Like the championship and not being able to get to the Super Bowl, that is its own thing where it's like, can you be talked about as one of the best coaches if you're not even getting to the Super Bowl? But Andy Reid's the only coach who's even getting close in actually making the Super Bowl literally almost every year.
Well, so
that's kind of fair.
But that's kind of my point is people be like, when you look at the teams with the great coaches like the Chiefs and the Niners, nope, don't put those two in the same category.
Right.
That's my point, basically, is don't put those two in the same. I would put
now the Patriots. They're like the one of one where it's like you're not allowed to compare yourself.
I'd put McVay closer to Reid than I would Shanahan. I think McVay is closer to Reid than he is to Shanahan.
Because he has a ring. Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Because he has a ring and because he's been
but
dynamic.
Still, he's not being talked about in the same vein. Although I will say, outside of the Chiefs, I don't know, like you said, the amount of adapting, not just Sean McVay that he's done. Like everyone talks about the outside zone stuff, and that's always going to be part of their scheme. They ran, I think they've run the most duo over the past like 3 years. The Patriots and them are like neck and neck. They're really the only teams, which is crazy considering the scheme is still a lot of outside zone, but nobody talks about the fact that they said, you know what, we're getting these big dudes and we're going to run right at you because defenses aren't built to play that way. And then they sell out to win the Super Bowl, right? They don't want the draft picks. They're just like, give us the veterans so we know what we got. Now they're adapting. They're getting all these guys, these diamonds in the rough. Like their defensive line right now is all second and first-year players, and they're eating. Like they lead the league in strip sacks. Their pressure rate through the roof. They're good run defense. So like the front office also deserves a ton of credit. So I think to your point, that's another reason I think the Rams are closer there because the way they've adapted their roster building, their scheme, and put their players in the best spots to win has been incredible to watch. And I didn't get to ask Mayo this, but obviously because of all the Rams coaches he interviewed, I think that he has been trying to build an East Coast Rams with the front office and the coaching staff are in sync. Drew Wilkins talked a ton about that today and how Elliott Wolf and his staff communicate a lot with them where they have a list of players. They say, hey, do you want these guys? Which, like, considering how it's been in the past, I kind of did a double take. It was like, wait, what? I guess we knew that was happening, but to hear from a coach that this communication's there is pretty cool. But it really does feel like that's where the Patriots are trying to trend with all the Rams coaches they went through in the process was let's get closer to them because clearly they have a recipe for success.
Yeah, I think like for me, part of what I love about football so much is it's ever changing, right? It's evolving and it's not stagnant. And that's part of what made the Patriots run so impressive. It wasn't one thing that they were doing. Yes, they had Tom Brady, but they had multiple identities over those years. They had multiple identities within a season at times. 2018, they come out guns blazing, throwing it all over the yard. We get to the end of the year and it's the Sony Michel show, right? And the Chiefs right now, this is the first time this year, as bad as they've been, is the first time I've considered the Chiefs anything close to a Patriots equivalent because they're reinventing themselves. I needed to see them do that to put them in that conversation. The Rams, like you said, went from F them picks. And when you lose a guy like Aaron Donald and you still have a dominant defensive front and you're one of the pioneers of the modern era, the outside zone. And so everybody starts playing you wide. And like, I think there's a lot of coaches that would be like, I'm the outside zone coach. That's what I do. I don't care what anybody does. Like, this
Just
is
say
my
Kyle
legacy.
Shanahan.
What does Sean McVay do? We're going to run the damn ball right down your throat. Like, I like that. So that's why I actually do. I respect the Rams. I respect Sean McVay. Les Snead too is a great example. Just real quick to put a ball on it. If I had to give my top three coaches right now, I would probably go Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Mike Tomlin. I think those are the three best coaches in football. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but I mean,
Mike Tomlin has to be in the conversation every year.
And those might be the only three active coaches with
I don't know if I'd put them top three.
But
I mean, I love Kevin O'Connell,
So I think
another Rams guy, but he would definitely be up there on my
I
list.
think he's the most underrated coach in the league. Like he's trending.
Yeah.
I think he's what people want Shanahan to be, and we'll see if he gets there. But I really, he's young, but I love the path that he's on. I'm a big fan.
But what Tomlin has done with no quarterback, usually not very good offensive lines, very shaky receiver situations, a quarterback who literally could not throw for the last 2 seasons of his career, and they made the playoffs. Like Mike Tomlin will never, ever get the credit he deserves, because when I looked at the records, even I was like, the Steelers are a top 3 team in the AFC.
Yeah.
And they played Fields and Russell Wilson, 2 quarterbacks who would not start for most teams, is absolutely insane. I don't care why.
That's a football coach right there, Mike Tomlin.
Yes.
That's the guy I'm looking for. Yep. Also, like every time a star player leaves, we find out he's like totally insane, which we had no idea of when he was in Tomlin's locker room. So like he deserves think about all I got. He deserves a ton of credit for that too.
Dan Campbell for the conversation. Dan Campbell, top 5, 6, but not top 3.
Well, so if we're gonna do top 5, so we have Reed in no particular order: Reed, Tomlin, McVay, O'Connell. Do you want to put is Campbell round that out? Are we leaving Shanahan out of the top 5
right now, for being honest?
Well, there
Do
you
we
go.
want to see how much is Dan Campbell like a coordinator merchant? Like, are you saying like it's gonna fall apart when Ben Johnson leaves? Or I mean, maybe they have a guy under, like the Patriots interviewed Detroit's passing game coordinator for their offensive coordinator position. Maybe that's going to be a seamless transition, but like, do you think that the Lions will kind of fall off when Ben Johnson and even their defensive coordinator seems like he could be getting head coaching jobs? Like, is that going to kind of tail off when it's just Dan Campbell's ship?
I'm a little worried about it. I'm not going to lie.
That'll be but that's like, okay, so Tomlin's had all these different coordinators, obviously like that Dick LeBeau for a ton, but like offensive coordinators, he's had different guys, and the offense hasn't been great, but still the team is very good. So with Campbell, I know he's like Mike Tomlin and Mayo, where he wants to be more of the CEO type and kind of the big picture and let your guys do their jobs. But I mean, I think a big thing is he looks for something specific in his coaches. I think the former player thing is very big to him. I think he has certain things that he looks for, and clearly he's done a damn good job. And the way that obviously they're winning, and that makes it easier, but those players loved him when they weren't winning. Like when they were every year during that build, people were all gung-ho about Dan Campbell, and you've seen the progress. Whereas with Shanahan, obviously they keep getting to the championship and all that, but they're also loaded. And now this year we're seeing them regress, whereas the Lions feel like they're just trending up every single year. And I think Shanahan is like 6 right now, but with Campbell, it's so hard. We'll obviously see when he has to lose people, but I mean, he's killing it.
It's the same thing with Shanahan. Like that roster's getting old. He's had the best roster in football for 3 or 4 years. And I think if you fail to win a championship with that roster, like it's an indictment. And with Campbell, Taylor, I think that's a great point. Like, I do think Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are a huge part of that team's success. Like those two are both tremendous at what they do, two of the best coordinators in football. Who hired them? Right. And Dan Campbell, I forget who it was, but they had a different offensive coordinator his first year. And he kind of recognized right away, like, this isn't the guy. And he moved on from him. So, if you're excellent at hiring coordinators, you can be a coordinator merchant. Because if you're bringing in the right guy every time and you have good coordinators continually, not saying that Belichick was a coordinator merchant, he certainly wasn't. But part of the reason the Patriots were able to sustain was they had a pipeline. McDaniels was on the staff under Weiss, and then O'Brien was on the staff under McDaniels, and the same thing on defense. And part of the reason it went south is the pipeline dried up. They didn't have the next guy, and they were still trying to promote from within the organization, but people weren't ready or weren't qualified. So,
or didn't want to stay because they weren't getting paid.
so is Dan Campbell a coordinator merchant? It's very possible. I would not rule that out. But if he's good at hiring them, who cares?
Yeah.
Also, the offensive coordinator was Anthony Lynn.
That's who it was. Yeah, that's right.
Which also does fit with what he likes, but Anthony Lynn, I think, has shown that he's not the best. He's probably more of a position coach than a coordinator.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a good jumping off point. Some NFL coach talk, Sean McVay.
That was good ball talk right there. I enjoyed that.
Good classic ball talk. But slowing down Sean McVay, that'll be the Patriots challenge this week. And we were talking about Christian Barmore. We were talking about this Patriots pass rush. It was struggling a little bit. Then, you go against Chicago, beaten down offensive line. You have a field day, 9 sacks, split amongst 7 guys. So we're not going to see Christian Barmore or Barth, but we might see Yannick Ngakoue make his Patriots debut. What are you expecting from him, if anything at all? And against this Rams front, who it's better than the Bears, but they've been going through some injuries themselves. They've started to get some guys back, but they not fully healthy. You saw Monday night, if you watched that Rams-Dolphins game, like a lot of pressure on Matt Stafford. So what are you looking for from Ngakoue, anything at all, and this Patriots pass rush to try to build off that Bears game against the Rams here?
So I think like we need to put this into context here, right? 9 sacks, 40% pressure rate. That'd be wonderful. I don't think that's going to happen. Like some of that, a good amount of that was a result of just the Bears line being a complete mess. But they also can't just go back to being non-existent up front defensively like they were for the month prior to that game. So you're looking for some sort of push. You're looking for some sort of spark. I think Ngakoue, like great first spot to have him because you come in with some momentum and now you drop this guy in off a tougher opponent. I'm just like, don't lose the line of scrimmage. I don't know that they're going to win it. We'll see who ends up playing for the Rams. I don't know that they're going to like definitively win at the line of scrimmage. Just don't definitively lose. I think even if it's a stalemate, that's probably advantage Patriots, especially because when you look at defending this Rams team, when they've played the Rams in the past, the Rams just gash them off play action. And the Rams, it's not just the Patriots. That's what the Rams want to do. So if you're the Patriots, you take away the run. Now you can let the guys in the secondary just focus on coverage assignments. They're not getting their eyes caught in the backfield, anything like that. And the Rams have not run the ball well this year. 31st in the league. I think it's like 3.8, 3.9 yards per carry, something like that. So I think if they can have a repeat performance against the run, even if the pass rush isn't quite there, that might be enough for what this Rams offense currently is with all its injuries and Cooper Kupp being kind of cooked and all that.
Yeah, the run defense is going to be interesting because, one, if Jeremiah Farms can have a game like he had last week, I think that's going to be a huge boot. Because obviously, I think, Devon Gottschall has been pretty solid. Jaquelin Roy, we don't know for a fact if he's going to play, but obviously, he's been an impactful player for them. But I don't know. So the Rams are top 5 or something in yards before contact, when Kyron's carrying the ball. But they're bottom 5 in missed tackles force and all that. He doesn't really make a lot of his own yards. So if the Patriots can be stout and just not get pushed off the ball, I think they should be fine. Because I don't think Kyron's the kind of guy where a Tony Pollard or a Tank Bigsby, where one, they have such great vision and they're so good at manipulating. They can create lanes that aren't there just by being oh, I'm going to go this way. No, I'm not. Or, just forcing more yards because they can just plow through tacklers. I don't really think Kyron's that kind of guy. So again, if they can build that wall, they should be okay. And obviously with this offense, that's the first step, because if you let them run, then the screens open up, the play action opens up, you got the bootlegs, and then Stafford's got more time to throw. But if you can stop it, then you put the Rams offensive line in a really bad spot pass blocking. That is not where they're good. Both of their tackles right now, I think they didn't participate yesterday. I don't know about Noteboom. He's not very good anyway, but I know that Havenstein, I know Jordan Rodriguez for The Athletic, she covers the Rams, reported today that I don't think he was there. So those are two glaring weak spots for them. And with the pass rush now, I think with Keon White, he's been your only quick winner. Anthony Jennings and Dietrich Wise, they can do their thing on the edge, but they're not beating a tackle off rip and then getting to the quarterback. And Stafford's got one of the shortest average times to throw in the league. The coverage has to take away those first reads to give the pass rush help, like they did with Caleb Williams, obviously. Although, that was its own completely different thing because Williams is trying to be a pocket passer and his ex-offensive coordinator, isn't really helping him out either. Very unique situation there. But with Yannick Ngakoue, I think you do have one guy on the edge who can get those quick wins. And again, with Farms, if you can use him in an Adam Butler style role and he can do what he did last week, where just quick wins, he sees your hands, clears them, and gets into the backfield, those are the ways I think that you really start to kind of torment Matthew Stafford. So we'll see, because it's not going to be like last week. You're not going to have Matthew Stafford holding onto the ball like that. And even when you do, I know DeMarcus Covington mentioned today, he's a tough guy to tackle. You still got to bring him down in the pocket because he's very good at just making those subtle adjustments, and he's a big dude as well. So it'll be interesting to see the performance, but I think this will be a nice kind of next step after it's the Bears rookie quarterback, terrible line. Now you got a veteran quarterback who's not going to make it as easy on you. His offensive line's got holes, but they're not terrible everywhere, so you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's.
Yep, definitely. It'll be interesting, just going back to Ngakoue, like their plan for him too. They seem like they're really hyping him up. Drew Wilkins talking today, who coached him in Baltimore very briefly, like called him a total package as a rusher, from his get off to his counter moves to then his ability to finish. And it's Gerard first mentioned a 3-down player, and Wilkins too mentioned that they want to make him a 3-down player, right? He said they're not going to restrict him or put him in this box. They're going to let him kind of form his own path like they have done with Anthony Jennings, right? Like some people might put him in just a run defender box, but now they're kind of letting him grow, and you see him like 7 pressures last week. He's getting to the quarterback. So it'll just be interesting to see their kind of usage plan for him. And I know he's only been here 3 days, but they were impressed with how he's kind of hit the ground running. So maybe it might not be, you'd imagine the role grows and grows as he goes, but exciting to see his plan for them right out of the gate. But Tayler, you mentioned, you got to mirror the rush, the coverage, something they did really well last week. You have Cooper Kupp, you have Puka Nacua, 2, smaller but more physical receivers. So is this a week that you think Christian Gonzalez is going to shadow one of these guys, or is it something similar that they did in Chicago last week, where we're going to put Christian Gonzalez on the boundary, and whoever's over there, he's going to take out of the game? And then I know you want to see more Marcus Jones, and these other corners are going to mix and match on the other side. So is it a Gonzalez shadow or a Gonzalez boundary game against these Rams receivers?
It could be situational. Because I want to respect DeMarcus Robinson. He's made a ton of big plays for the Rams. Like, he is not the kind of guy. It's kind of like Juwan Jennings, where you go into the game and before you look at the stats and everything, you're like, I don't really care about him. You don't have to worry about him. And then you look at the stats and you're like, wait, he has 5 touchdowns. Everybody else has like 1 the past month or something like that. So I think it's going to be important to make sure that like you just don't forget about Robinson. But at the same time, Puka is one of the guys that really makes that offense run. Where, yes, if DeMarcus Robinson is the one who catches like a game-winning touchdown, shit happens. But you got to make sure that Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are taken care of. So, and it's also, Puka does play a lot of their X role. Like Puka and Cooper are big dudes. Like Puka's 6'2". I think Cooper Kupp is like 6'1", and they're both 200+ pounds. So I think the mismatch is going to be Marcus Jones. I think he is going to be in the slot with Cooper Kupp. Hopefully we see some Isaiah Bolden so you have more size to match up with. But like, Kupp is so dangerous as a route runner. That's a lot to ask of Bolden. So we'll see how that works out. But I do think that Gonzo is going to shadow Puka. Also because of all the ways they try to get him involved in like the screen game and all those things. We saw, especially early in the season, teams, especially these West Coast teams in the Shanahan tree, kept trying to create situations where Gonzo was shadowing their number one, and they tried to pick him off. They tried to throw a screen and whatever. And Gonzo was having none of that. So the Rams do a ton of that. I do think that this is going to be the kind of week where Gonzo is going to stay among that one guy, maybe like Marco Wilson, Alex Austin, or John Jones, whomever takes DeMarcus Robinson.
Barth, same thoughts, or?
Yeah, kind of similar. I 2 similar guys, 2 big physical guys, and they played a lot of man last week, so it makes sense to play man again against this team. But I don't know that there's like. Yeah, I think Gonzo on Nacua makes the most sense. Evan said on Catch 22 today, he thought it was a hot take that Cooper Kupp was washed. I don't think that's a particularly hot take, but like, yeah, I'm not as.
He's just injured all the time.
Yeah,
and those are going to catch up. But
is that not washed? Like when you're a 31-year-old receiver that's always hurt, isn't that what
I guess that
is?
I mean, he's producing though, isn't he? Like,
yeah, like I think he's in the category of almost like DeAndre Hopkins, where it's like he's not washed because he can still produce, but he's not, going to be winning offensive player of the year. Yeah, exactly. But I those guys, when they're very savvy and they've got good hands and they know how to get open, I don't like calling them washed because it's like that dude will still put up 100 yards on you if you decide to play him like someone who's washed.
Fair enough.
I mean, 3 out of the 5 games he's played 90% of the snaps, he's put up 110, 104, and 80 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. So he's producing, but
yards, he's doing it.
Yeah, definitely probably not moving like prime Cooper Kupp. But
Right.
anything
Actually,
else?
the interesting thing with that, really quick, when the games when Cooper Kupp was on the show, he talked about like Keenan Allen and how Keenan Allen has never beaten anybody on a go route. No one ever thinks that Keenan Allen is going to beat them deep. He can still win on a curl every single time. And the fact that Cooper Kupp, like, that's in his head. I know that dude works like an absolute maniac in the offseason. Like, he likes to get different coaches so he can get different perspectives and learn things. that's another one of those reasons where it's like, I don't think he's ever going to be bad until his body truly starts shutting down and he just doesn't love the game or he physically can't anymore. Like, if Keenan Allen can still do it, and how old is he now? Like 33. I think Kupp is going to play as long as he wants.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. Before we move on to the offense, just anything else either of you are watching on the defense from a scheme perspective to any individual players? Like, I'm interested just to see Sione Takitaki again. It looked like he filled in pretty well last week. I know he's been on the injury report. He DNP yesterday with a knee. He was out there for the start of today's practice. We're still waiting for Thursday's injury report, but interesting to see him more again. Anything else just on the defense that either of you two are looking at before we move on?
Yeah, I'd say along similar lines, Jelani Tavai is kind of on this upwards trajectory, and I think that's helping. We talked about defending the run, how important that is in this game. He's going to be a factor in that. And the other one, do we get more John Jones at free safety? I thought that was a good role for him last week, and I don't know that it needs to be like a full-time thing. And to me, some of that ties into like is Alex Austin going to be back? Because Marcus Jones has been good opposite Christian Gonzalez.
Duggar
but
might be back.
Duggar might be back too, but as good as Marcus Jones has been, and Taylor, I know you're super high on Marcus Jones right now, and you have every reason to be. This isn't me necessarily discounting that, but these are bigger physical receivers, and at the end of the day, 5'8" is 5'8". We've seen Marcus Jones struggle in those situations, so not as much of a Marcus Jones game as like if you can get, and not that Jonathan Jones is big, but he's a little bigger, he has a little more experience there, but if you can get Alex Austin back on the field, right, and you can put him on maybe Cooper Kupp, well, Gonzo is taking Puka Nacua, then maybe that frees you up to put Jonathan Jones on the back end. So it'll be interesting to let's see what happens with Austin, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And then Duggar as well.
I totally agree. Now with Marcus, I think the debate with him a lot of the time is like, okay, do you want like a Marco Wilson or an Alex Austin where they're probably going to allow more separation? They might even miss a tackle, but obviously they bring more physicality and they're bigger versus Marcus Jones, where he's going to be at the catch point every single time. Like, he's going to be competitive. Would you rather the guy who, he may win because he's got more size, or the guy where it's like, at least we don't have to worry about like Marcus giving up touchdowns or not being able to tackle. And he's also a better run defender than both of those guys. So definitely going to be interesting to see how he's used. And also, is John Jones going to stick at safety? Because if Kyle Duggar's back, Marte Mapu had a reduced role. He didn't really play on early downs. That was more Del Pettis and Jalen Hawkins. But I think all of those guys have made a case to be on the field. So now do you keep Marcus or John Jones outside? Like, I'm curious how that's going to work out exactly, because I've gotten no answers when I asked why Marcus Jones is basically a rotational player. Like, when I asked him, he said, I just go where they tell me to, basically. DeMarcus Covington, like, completely avoided the question and kind of focused more on the perimeter run force part of my question. And then Mike Pellegrino was like, he's not going to be like standing next to me the whole time, but he's going to have a big role. So I don't get the corner rotation. I really don't fully understand it, except for times when John Jones is at safety, but that'll be a fun thing to see.
All right, before we move on to the offense, I got to tell you guys about Prize Picks, where you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You just make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Barth and I submit our Patriots lineups every game day. We do it at the end of the show. Taylor will get to join us today to finish our recap and see.
Taylor, do you know how we do Prize Picks?
I do not. So this is going to be interesting.
Oh, you're going to have some fun.
Don't worry. Ahmed always yells at us how we do it. So you'll get to see how we do it and work through our process. But if you want to play along with our lineups or extend it to the entire league with stars like Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley plays tonight in a big matchup. Commanders at Eagles should be a good one. Plenty of players, Jaden Daniels, to put in your lineups on Prize Picks, which is also the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, on Prize Picks, run your game. All right, moving on to the Patriots offense here versus the Rams defense. If you ask Gerard Mayo or Alex Van Pelt, it all starts up front for the Rams defense. Taylor talked about it a little bit earlier there with, a lot of young guys. Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, 2 early draft picks this year. Jared Verse is so fun to watch. He is an absolute game wrecker. But Mayo and Van Pelt really made it seem like that's where they start. Mayo even said, like, if we handle those guys, they have guys at the second and third level, but it starts up front. So don't want to say they're looking past the second and third level of the defense of the Rams defense, but that's kind of what it seems like. They challenge the offensive line. So Barth, how do you slow down this Rams front if you're the Patriots offensive line? And you'd imagine Alex Van Pelt, his scheme is going to have to play a hand in this.
Well, it's interesting because when you heard Mayo talk yesterday and Van Pelt talk today, they both kind of caught themselves almost saying the Rams secondary doesn't scare them, right? Like, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I wouldn't put the bulletin board material out there, but I'm not saying they're wrong in thinking it. So do you fight fire with fire? Do you come out and I don't think they're going to run the ball a ton. I don't. I think that Tennessee game plan, and I credited it last week for what it was, or not the Tennessee game plan. Sorry, the Chicago game plan. I credit it for what it was. Drake May in the passenger seat. It's good they have that club in their bag. You don't need the pitching wedge right now. Take out the driver. Like, do you see we're going to keep 6 in and protect, and we're going to try to throw the ball down the field, and we're going to put the game in the hands of the secondary. Now, that's easier said than done because the line still needs to block. This is where I think that continuity thing comes in big because you have seen this line play better week in and week out as they've stayed together. So let's see if they can put up a similar effort this week. And we just talked about, like, against the Bears for the Patriots defensive line. That Bears offensive line just sucked. Like, that was not a representative NFL offensive line. Bears front's not bad, especially when it comes to rushing the passer. And they didn't have an unbelievable game last week. They weren't the 90s Cowboys, but, like, they blocked okay. If they can go get, like, one step better than that, you might actually be able to throw the ball a little bit. Now, then it's on Drake May to take care of the football, not make dumb decisions. But I actually think they're going to come out aggressive on aggressive. I don't think they're going to try to run. Like, this is usually where I say, well, you run the ball, you upset the timing of the pass rush, and can you work in screens and draws? They're going to blow all that up. They're just too good. I don't think this is one of those games. I think they're going to come out and try to throw the ball and get them on their heels.
I think getting out to an early lead is going to be pretty big, and I think they have the opportunity to do that. But for as little respect as the Patriots showed the Rams secondary in their back end this week, they've shown just as much, if not more, respect for the line, and there's a reason for that. I think if you make it obvious that you're just going to throw the ball, it's a really bad spot to put yourself in. And Drake May. Like, Alex Van Pelt, I think he also said something today about, like, how they have to run 31 times. I know that was that specific game plan, but the weakness I've seen from this Rams front is if you do just get downhill and run, that'll open up the play action, which I think that we need to understand. They are going to try to run the ball every single game. That's part of their identity. Now, if they bang their head against a wall, obviously there are accommodations that need to be made. This may be the kind of game where not necessarily you need 2 plans, but you do need to be prepared to throw if you have to. But I think it sounds like a worn out thing and kind of annoying, but it's because football is a pretty simple game at the end of the day. It's a game of human beings. And if, especially the Rams, like, they're not the biggest front either. So if you can just be able to punch them in the mouth for like 4 quarters, that's when, you can start dropping back and you're going to get some real clean pockets because those boys are tired. But secondary, like Jackson Smith and Najigba almost had, if there weren't for 2 offensive line penalties, would have had 258 yards against the Rams 2 weeks ago. That's insane. And I think it's a lot of the ways that it can still work with Pop. Like, they had blown coverages. They're not good on underneath throws. They're one of the worst defenses in the league. They missed the most tackles, I think. And they also have, like, a ton of explosive plays underneath. So I think this is going to be a really big Pop game. Maybe they get Jalen Pope some opportunities underneath. I don't know. But, as vulnerable as the secondary is, I just think the defensive line is way too good for you to declare we are going to beat you this way because they're going to wreak out. There's too much talent. They come in with line games. They come in one-on-one. The left side of the offensive line with Vidarian and Michael Jordan has really struggled, especially with inside slants and things like that. So I do think they're going to have to be versatile, but I also think that this could be a big day for Drake May and maybe a career day for Demario Douglas. I don't know. I'm going to clip this just so that if it happens, I can quote because I love my receipts.
Yeah. No, Taylor, as you said, like, they are kind of vulnerable under center rushing attack, the Rams front, and then off play action with that, which you finally saw the Patriots get a little bit of momentum in their play action passing game. I know some of it was coverage bust last week, but if you can keep building on that, but then, to Barth's point, like attack the weak secondary, attack the weak links, but it's going to be a big day for Drake just handling some of that pressure, because there's going to be pressure on him at times. So what do you want to see from him, Tayler, just, handling that pressure? And we don't want to see turnovers, obviously, but just what are you looking for Drake in this one with those different pressures and schemes coming at him?
That's my biggest thing, is protect the football. We know that he can do all the fun stuff. He's making progress. Like, there's not a specific thing I want to see in terms of like, yes, do this, but it is like, one, the Rams lead the NFL in strip sacks. Drake May has been strip sacked twice. Alex Van Pelt noted that as one of the things that he needs to improve, is protecting the ball when he's in the pocket. Obviously, the interceptions, like, yes, there was that one interception where Van Pelt said he's going to, have nightmares about it for the rest of the season. And, it's going to be on his mind. Yeah, like short armed, but still, he almost threw the pick to Hunter Henry. I know he wanted a flag or whatever, but it's like, he's had multiple turnover-worthy plays in every game this season. I'm really hoping we see the first clean game of Drake May's career, because I think that's ultimately going to be the difference against a quarterback like Stafford, and then a coordinator and coach overall like Sean McVay.
Barth, anything with May you're looking at?
Just limiting the turnovers again. Like he had that one really bad pick. It was a really bad pick, but like the total number of turnover-worthy plays came down from the week before. Granted, he threw less, but the percentage came down too. Let's see if he can keep cutting into that and just don't throw it right to a linebacker. Like, rookie mistake, fine, I get it. You don't get to make that one twice.
I remember, like, on his tape, I've always said, like, there's not a ton of those, like, ugly Josh Allen, like, what the F were you thinking? But that pick did remind me of, like, Minnesota. He had one like that where he was going to his right, and he threw it right through a defender. And that was the first time watching his tape, but I was just like, ooh, is this a problem? Like, does he do this sometimes? Very, very rare. But I think it's just going to be something you have to deal with, like, maybe once or twice a year.
It is, like, he had one of the lowest turnover-worthy play rates in college. But, with this transitioning to the pros and this style, with this supporting cast, you might expect that. But, yeah, if you can
not in the ACC anymore.
Exactly. So, but also maybe a good game for him to use his legs. I know we all want him to win in the pocket, but get out of the pocket, make some plays with his legs. Tua had some extended scramble out of structure against the Rams Monday night. Tayler, looks like you want to add to that. So,
dude, he converted like a 3rd and 26 and like a 3rd and 19. He had 3 third down conversions on scrambles. So those are, I think this is not the Bears. The Rams have been pretty good with that. But I did notice a few times, like, they'll use a lot of their slants inside, and the replace guy is sometimes late or doesn't come at all. So I would expect Drake May to be moving outside the pocket quite a bit in this one.
And I know we all want him to slide, but I don't think he's going to be sliding anytime soon. I'm sorry, guys. But once he said today that, the one time he slid, I got concussed or got hit in the head and got an injury, like, he's not sliding anytime soon. So, but hopefully he can protect himself, but maybe he can make some plays with his legs in this one. So moving on, let's talk about the wide receivers. We talked to Alex Van Pelt today, and he said they were, we saw the shakeup in the group last week in terms of snaps with Kendrick Bourne not playing, KJ Osborne getting a bump. Van Pelt said today, seems like they were kind of getting closer to settling on their group. Booty was their most consistent. He called Pop Douglas Mr. Consistent. He did hint that Kendrick Bourne might be more involved in this wide receiver group. So, Barth, are you expecting that room to look similar as it did against Chicago, or could we get another curveball and see more Kendrick Bourne this week against the Rams?
Yeah, I mean, you just set it up well. He said that, okay, they kind of have an idea of what they want to do now after last week, but does that mean they liked what they saw last week, or does that mean, like, we gave KJ Osborne one more chance and there was nothing there, so we're done with him, right? It could go either way. So I think it means more Bourne. He spoke very highly of Kendrick Bourne, not like a guy that's about to get benched permanently. So for me, it's Bourne having a slightly bigger role. I also think we see Jalen Polk play more. I still want to see more Javon Baker. It's just not going to happen. It's nothing that suggests that's going to happen. So
he singled out. He didn't single out when he was talking about the group. He mentioned Polk and he did not mention Baker. So
yeah,
the guy who blocked 4 times and didn't run a single route last week.
And look, I'll tell the two of you, get ready to get a million questions this summer. Could Javon Baker be this year's Kayshon Boutte? We're going to be talking in the offseason about, we'll be going through the positions and be like, well, they have this and this and this at receiver. Why aren't you mentioning Javon Baker? Because he didn't do anything. Well, neither did Kayshon Boutte. Like, we did this with and it happened twice. We did this with Josh Uche and Anthony Jennings. They both popped his ear, and we thought we were going to do it with Derek Rivers too, and then he got hurt. So I want to see more Javon Baker. I don't think it's going to happen. I hope there's more Kendrick Bourne. I get it. He's not the best route runner in the world. And he has his issues, but at this point, it's not like you're putting Calvin Johnson out there over him, right? They need guys that can separate. They need guys that can create explosive plays. Bourne can do that. Osborne can't. He needs to be on the field. And I mean, they re-signed him. They re-signed. If you re-signed him, knowing what he is, to not play him is a bad look. So, and it's not like Josh Uche where they got him for nothing. So put Kendrick Bourne on the field, let him make plays. I know there's been the take out there today. It's like, well, that's 3 coaching staffs that all kind of ran into problems with Kendrick Bourne. The Matt Patricia thing was clearly personal. That was not about him as a player. I disagree that he ran out of favor with Bill. I don't think that ever happened. And then this year,
Bill love him. He did something when he
Bill,
got engaged. People were like,
Bill got him a cape. Yeah,
right.
And then this year, I just think they're scrambling. And I think they maybe like KJ Osborne a little too much. So, but what I would say is in all 3 of those cases, when Kendrick Bourne was on the field, the offense was better. Put the guy on I can't believe we're doing this again. And I'm the number 1 Kendrick Bourne defender. So maybe there's a little bias coming from me. But can we put the guy on the field and let him make plays? Because when you put him on the field, he usually makes plays. I don't understand what's so complicated. Yeah, there's some penalties that come with it. He's not prime Randy Moss. I'm sorry. When he's on the field, he makes plays. There is some bad, but there's a lot more good than bad. Put him on the field.
Yeah. I wonder if it comes back to him not being on the field throughout the offseason too, just not having those reps. And, Taylor, or Bourne mentioned the route depth in those some of those plays against Tennessee. Taylor, I don't remember the play a few weeks ago where Hunter Henry was pointing at him where to go. He ran the wrong route. I feel like it is just some of that mental stuff, but should the ability on the field to separate and help your young rookie quarterback outweigh some of that? And you hope he might pick it up as it goes. So I would play him over Osborne. Taylor, are you in the same boat? And what do you want to see from that receiver group on Sunday?
So one, I understood why Kendrick Bourne wasn't playing because I was talking about it leading up to the game, how there were a lot of things he did in that Tennessee game that irked me. Yes, it was his most productive game, but one, he's out there, he's making plays. That was the only game where he made plays since he's gotten back. And I understand he's working his way back. I get that completely, but you can't be on the field if you're not doing the right things. That's why Javon Baker wasn't getting any action, not even as a kick returner, because Alex Van Pelt said, if we don't know what route you're running, if you're not lining up in the right place, we can't trust you. We can't put you on the field. I think that's what happened with Kendrick Bourne. He acknowledged there were not just one play. He mentioned 2. I saw more than 2 where he wasn't doing the right thing on the play. So KJ Osborne, I also think you talk about Alex Van Pelt didn't talk about Javon Baker. He didn't talk about KJ Osborne either. I think that's also pretty telling that, yes, they put KJ Osborne out there because he's a pro. I think he was great on the sideline, and he probably just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Got drops. It isn't really good when they throw him the ball outside of that one touchdown. But I think it literally was just hey, we want to play Jalen Polk on early downs, let him show us we can do as a blocker, some play action opportunities. So those 2 receiver sets, it was Boutte and then it was Polk. And then in the 3 receiver sets, that was when Osborne came on. And it was this is clearly what Kendrick Bourne was supposed to do. So with what Alex Van Pelt said about him and then the lack of a comment about Osborne, yes, I do think we see more Kendrick Bourne. Yeah, Javon Baker, I'm just not going to give myself hope. If I see something cool, awesome. But I'm not doing this every week, especially after he didn't even run a route against the Bears.
It felt like maybe we were getting somewhere the last 2 weeks. They kept calling him an explosive player, but this week it kind of seemed to cool down, talking to the coaches with the whole Javon Baker hype. So any last thoughts on anything offensive related or any players you're specifically looking at that we didn't get to or mention yet before we move on?
Just real quick, I thought Antonio Gibson showed something last week. Maybe a little bit bigger of a role for him. I'd say he earned it.
And with him, the Rams have not been good defending screens, and we all know Patriots want to be the best screen game. So get Antonio Gibson involved. I like that. Get some more explosiveness on the field. Taylor, anything to wrap up the offense?
Could be a big Hunter Henry game if you need him for, whatever it is, if he's on your team or whatever. Because of the scrambling ability and because the Rams play a ton of zone, and that's really where Hunter Henry tends to eat a lot of the time, I think he's going to have the middle of the field period. Like pop, Hunter Henry should have a lot of success.
All right, let's wrap up with special teams, a little special teams talk, and our prize picks lineup. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Game Time, because we all love going to football games in the fall. And it's also basketball and hockey season, or any other sport you want to go watch. Make sure you get your tickets with Game Time, and they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes it getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. If you want to be in Gillette Stadium this Sunday to watch Rams at Patriots, cheapest ticket right now is $85 on the Game Time app, or you can go to Game Time Picks and you can sit 2 sections below us in the press box right there in the corner. $120, great deal, great view, of course, using Game Time Picks. So make sure you head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed and other app features such as seat views, all-in pricing, and of course, Game Time Picks, which makes it even easier to save on your sports and concerts, comedy, theater, or any other tickets you are looking for. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Taylor, what time is it?
Game time.
There you go. Barth doesn't do that for me, so I had to get you while you were in here. But
I didn't know I was supposed to do that.
We can start doing it. I just noticed Mike and Taylor do it. It was nice and cute. So.
I was surprised by that. I was like, oh, man, the one time I missed Mike.
I got you. I did my scouting report for you. So let's just wrap up quick. Any special teams? Looks like might be a good day at Gillette. Sunny, 50s, 60s. Doesn't look like much wind on the radar, but what are you looking at special teams wise in this one? Barth, we'll start with you.
So the Patriots have allowed 3 field flipping punt returns in the last 4 games. Field flipping, that includes the touchdown against the Jags. And even the ones that aren't big ones, like the small ones are big for small ones, if that makes sense. The hidden yardage is there. The Patriots are allowing 14.3 yards per return, 5th highest in the NFL. Get right game for that unit. The Rams punt return game, not good. Xavier Smith took over as the returner in week 3. His first 2 returns, 38 and 17 yards. Pretty good. Hasn't had a return over 8 yards since. He's averaging 4 yards a return since week 5. The Rams are not a team that's going to break one. Or they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. Get right game for that unit. What adjustments? I'm looking at, do they start punting more to the sideline? And that's conventional wisdom. Now, I wonder if with a player like Brendan Schooler, there's a little more willingness to let's kick the ball to the middle of the field, especially when it's a long field. Let's kick the ball to the middle of the field and give Schooler a chance to make a play, maybe big hit, knock the ball loose, see if we can get it to roll, something like that. I might go back to kicking it towards the sideline. I don't know if that's been Behringer mishitting his kicks. I don't know if it's been a scheme thing where they're trying to kick it towards the middle of the field. It's tough to say. It might be some of both, because these big returns, there's not one common thing. Like Bryce Behringer outkicks his coverage in Jacksonville, but you've also had issues where I thought he kicked a good ball and then they're not filling their lanes correctly, or it's just poor tackling, or you plug one hole and 2 more open up. So I think it's get back to basics. Don't get too cute. Put the ball near the sideline, and they should not be allowing big punt returns this week. Besides that, special teams has been pretty good for the last month or so, but they got to be better in the punt return game. The punt return coverage game. Marcus Jones, actually one of the best punt returners in football. So I don't want to shortchange him there, but punt return coverage, not quite on the same level.
Yep. Taylor, you're on Pat's beat. You have to give us a special teams take. Go for it.
I was going to go Marcus Jones. He's had his own big returns. I think in each of the last 3 games, talk about complimentary football. The Patriots want to be more consistent. And Drake May also mentioned being complimentary. Even I know the Bootleg Football podcast talked about, well, what does it look like to learn how to win? And it is being able to win in all those three phases where the defense gets you a stop, Marcus Jones helps flip the field, then the offense takes advantage and goes to score. I think being able to take some of the pressure off of them is going to be huge. Also just Marcus Jones is one of the most fun parts of Patriots games every single week. So looking forward to seeing if he can make it a 4-peat. We'll see.
I don't know why teams still kick to him, especially in like late end of game.
Yeah, it's a great question.
I remember with the Titans, I'm sitting there next to Mike Reese, and I'm like, they're not going to kick it to him, right? He's like, of course not. And they did it, and we're both just like, what? Just why did they do that? So, yeah, idiots.
But Jeremy Sprinter revenge game too against his old LA Rams team. So maybe he's got something special in the bag for this one. We'll wait and see. But yeah, just a complete game on special teams would be nice for this group. So let's wrap up our Patriots Rams preview with our Prize Picks lineup of the week. Taylor will join us for this one. So our wonderful producer, Amit Taylor, likes us to, talk about this before the show and have a nice, clean lineup set. We don't do that. We like to show the people the method behind the madness.
We shoot from the hip.
We just rattle off the lineups, the players, and we go with what our kind of gut and knowledge tells us to. So if you like anything, yell out. We'll start right at the top of the list.
We run it up. I think we crashed the app last week. Like we're going for the biggest multiplier. Although some of these we've been like within one pick of hitting.
So pretty much all of our lineups were 1 or 2 off. So everyone just take our lineups and take one out that you don't like. Last week, actually, we've been hitting. So we've been maxing it out with 6 entries that we go 5 for 6 and you get your money back at least. So you get some lineup protection there on Prize Picks. But we've been, Mike does the little 2-person lineups. We don't do that. We max out the multiplier. We go 6 players. That's what
we're here to win, baby.
Exactly. So
I'm about it.
First player up on Prize Picks is Demario Douglas, 34.5 receiving yards, 3.5 receptions. Do you like either of those?
I like 3.5 receptions.
More than 3.5 receptions? All right, we'll throw that one in there. Drake May, he's at, if you want to go rushing, 27.5 rush yards, longest rush, 12.5 yards, or if you're more in the passing game, 209.5 passing yards, or if you want to combine them, 240.5 pass plus rush yards.
I'll go 240.
That combined one's not bad. Do they have more than half an interception? That's kind of been automatic for him. That was the devil last week too. Like we got a bonus for that, right?
No, they do not. Their devil for Drake this week is more than 1.5 pass touchdowns or more than half a rush plus receiving touchdown.
I don't know about that.
Let's do the 240 pass plus rush yards.
So there's 2.
That's a good one. Hunter Henry is next in line. They have the devil more than half a receiving touchdown, or it's 36.5 receiving yards or 3.5 receptions.
I think receptions, right? Safety blanket. If they're going to be throwing hot against the blitz, the 2 guys are going to be Pop and Henry.
Yeah,
so
I think that's an easy one.
More than 3.5 receptions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll need one more, and then we'll go over to the Rams, and then our random game of the week.
We pick one from the worst game in the NFL.
We get the sicko bet in there. Joey Sly, more than 1.5 field goals made. Kayshon Boutte, 2.5 receptions, 30.5 receiving yards. If you think Mondre, 56.5 rush yards, 15.5 receiving yards for Mondre.
I don't hate the Kayshon Boutte's more than yards. He might not catch a lot of passes, but like if they throw him the ball, it's going to be down the field. And
30.5 receiving yards. Kayshon
get that on one catch.
Yeah. And I would take the same for Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's probably going to get a screen or at least a check down in space and then be able to pop one maybe.
We'll go Boutte. Let's put Boutte in there. I don't think we've used Boutte in our lineup this week. Flipping over to the Rams side of things. They got Byron Young, more than a quarter of a sack is a devil if you think their defensive line is going to get home. Cooper Kupp, 68.5 receiving yards, more or less. Taylor, you think Christian Gonzalez is going to be on Puka, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Puka, 67.5 receiving yards. Matt Stafford is at 244.5 pass yards. Anything there?
I mean, anything more than
or less.
Jared Verse is a quarter of a sack.
Oh, I would take more than that.
Yes.
More than that. All right.
He rushes off both edges. That's tough.
Yeah.
So there's our 5. Barth, what's our sicko game of the week? Do you
All right,
have
we've
one
got Raiders. Here are the candidates. There's quite a few. This is like one of the best weeks for big games. There's also some ass games. Raiders, Dolphins, Browns, Saints, Colts, Jets. That's pretty much it. Those are the 3. Raiders, Dolphins, Browns, Saints. Or do we want to take Mac Jones again? Because we didn't get to do that last week.
Let's look at Mac Jones if he's up. He is up.
Yeah.
189.5 pass yards. They have a devil more than 1.5 interceptions.
Oh, it's 1.5. I don't know if they're going to let him. But here's the thing. I don't know if they're going to let him throw that much.
So his pass attempts is 34.5, which sounds like a lot, but I'm guessing they just think, the game script against the Lions is going to be so bad that he's going to have to throw it a bunch.
I don't hate less than 180 yards. How many times did he do that last year?
That's a good question.
He did it against the Eagles in the opener. He had like 2 300-yard games early in the season, and that was it.
It pretty much comes down to what do you think the game script is going to be and how much garbage time.
I think he's going to have to throw from behind a lot. So I don't even know if I like the interceptions because of
the interceptions.
You want to do the interceptions?
If he's chucking the ball around there, he might. So
screw it. There's a defender down there somewhere.
Exactly. All right. So here's
I will say that Gabe Davis didn't help him there. Gabe Davis dogged that route.
Why is he even throwing to Gabe Davis?
That's an excellent question. That is, I feel so vindicated about Gabe Davis.
Yep.
I can't believe people were really pushing for the Patriots to sign him. That was crazy.
Those 3 games a year would be great. Those 3 games a year where he shows up would be great. What are they for Gabe Davis?
I don't know. That's a good question. We hit our 6-player limit anyway. So our 6-player lineup is Demario Douglas more than 3.5 receptions, Drake May more than 240.5 pass plus rush yards, Hunter Henry more than 3.5 receptions, Kayshon Boutte more than 30.5 receiving yards, Jared Verse more than 1/4 of a sack, and Mac Jones more than 1.5 interceptions. 6 out of 6. The Mac Jones is a devil too. So usually the max multiplier is 25. We're at a 30-time multiplier.
Let's
if you have a perfect lineup.
I'm going to actually do this. I'm actually going to do this.
So if you play the $5 and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly, if you just play the $5 on that lineup and we go 6 for 6, you win $150. If you then want to put the $50 on that you get instantly, $1,500 payout again if we go 6 for 6. If we go
Taylor, I told you we go big here.
Or 4 of 6 or 5 of 6. Also, you have lineup protection, so you get your money back on that one. So we've been pretty good with that 4 for 6, 5 for 6. But if we go 6 for 6 and you put that $50 that you get instantly for using code CLNS after you play $5, $1,500 payout on Prize Picks if we go 6 for 6. So we'll tweet that lineup out again before early on Sunday so you guys can play along with us. But I think we're feeling good about this one, guys, right? Are we?
Yeah.
I feel very good about this, actually. Come on, Mac.
That's more fun than just picking
the old Mac.
That's more fun than just picking 2 players with Mike, right?
That's way more fun, honestly. We might have to do it.
See, and Amit likes it that way. That's lame. All right, we like it that way. But
if it makes Amit upset, I have even more reason to do it.
Before we log off, Barth, any college football takes or games this weekend you are looking forward to?
I mean, Tennessee, Georgia, big game. And we got a call on Catch 22 today that some, couple people maybe warming up to the idea of a defensive player in the first round, especially if the Patriots end up like later in the single digits, like 8, 9, 10. Michael Williams from Georgia, because here's my take. The Patriots are going to take a long, hard look at Kelvin Banks. I think we all know that. It makes sense they're going to do that. They're going to see a lot of good things from Kelvin Banks. They're also going to see Michael Williams be a pain in his ass. And do they look at that and say, well, we think this tackle's really good, so let's draft the guy who gave him trouble? And boy, could they use a guy like Michael Williams. So that's Tennessee, Georgia. There aren't a ton of great games this week. I feel like we had a few weeks with these really great slates, and It's not a bad slate. It's just not, as good as it's been. The noon window is particularly weak, but Tennessee, Georgia is going to be a fun game. That's a really competitive game. And you get a chance to watch Mike Williams and James Pierce, who's another one of the top edge rushers who plays for Tennessee. So if you're somebody who maybe wants to see the Patriots go defense, take an edge rusher, or you're somebody who really believes they're going to acquire a receiver and tackle in free agency and trade, and they can take a defensive player. The other game I'll watch, because college football is so much about the vibes. So this year with the college football playoff, the first round games are on campus. They're not bowl games. You play it at your home stadium, which one is really cool. And I keep seeing these potential games when they redo the rankings every week that I'm like, I need the rankings to stay because I need that game. And then there's new games and I'm like, oh, this is better. Alabama having to go to Indiana in December. That's nonsense. But so these games we're a month out from this and the rankings change every week. Penn State, for some reason, thought it would be a good idea to begin ticket sales for their first round game today. Like they announced the ticket sales today. Number 4 Penn State. So they are playing Purdue, who is the absolute biggest chaos candidate in the Big Ten. They are one of the biggest chaos candidates in college football. They are never good, but when they win, they don't beat bad teams, but they beat top 5 teams. That is all Purdue does. They go 2-10 with 2 wins against the best teams in the country. Penn State has to go to Purdue this week. It is just right there on a platter for Penn State to have that ticket sale shoved up there, you know what. So I will be watching that game. That's at 3:30. Purdue is terrible this year. They are awful. I will be watching that game very intently.
That'd be such a James Franklin Penn State thing.
It would be such, oh my God, it would be such a Penn State thing. It's such a Purdue thing.
Yeah.
So that will be fun.
Yep. If you're interested in the tackles, Kelvin Banks plays Arkansas at noon, and then Will Campbell and LSU play Florida in the 3:30 window. And then
Florida actually has a decent front, so there's some education there.
Yep. And then so those edge guys you were talking about, Georgia, Tennessee, 7:30. Hopefully everyone watches that game instead of Oregon, Wisconsin. I don't know why they keep putting Wisconsin in prime time. No need to watch that. Watch Georgia, Tennessee, and not Oregon. But
what about Irsay, Brian? Are they off this week?
That's a good question.
I think they're off this week.
They might.
Yeah, they're off this week.
Might be on.
They're going to get an angry Penn State team next week coming off that loss to Purdue. That'll be big. Going to happen.
Ursary against Abdul Carter. That'll be another one of those, Michael Williams, Kelvin Banks matchups that maybe, we're breaking down a lot. So that's your college football window. Barth, I have one more thing before we get out of here. I'm going to make Tayler talk some baseball really quick because I didn't ask you this at Gillette on purpose because I wanted to get your reaction on here. We haven't done a Boston Sports Minute in a while. The hot stove looks like it might be heating up in the MLB. Are you any belief that Juan Soto could be a Boston Red Sox in free agency here? Is John Henry back? Is John Henry committed to really doing this thing?
I can't believe you're going to waste Taylor's time with this. No, of course not.
I love this.
They are using Juan Soto to put out there to teams that they're willing to spend. They think that if they put themselves in the mix, it messages agents and it messages players, hey, we're willing to spend. And Juan Soto will take the meeting because he can, I think the 5 teams, it's the Yankees, Mets, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and there's
mystery team. I think.
No, there's another team that he's meeting with, but the Red Sox can outbid the Blue Jays. So they can go and say we weren't the lowest bidder. And then Juan Soto can take the Red Sox offer and go to the real big market teams or the teams that act like big market teams and the Yankees and the Mets and say, this is what the Red Sox are offering, knowing damn well they'll top it. So no, this isn't the Red Sox are open for business, Dan Duquette. It's a charade of that. What they're going to do is overpay Teoscar Hernandez, who they could have paid last year. Taylor, you tell me if this makes any sense. The Red Sox need a power-hitting right-handed outfielder. That is what Teoscar Hernandez is. He's a little older. He's 31, but that's not bad for baseball. The Red Sox offered him, and he wanted to be a Red Sox. He was very open about wanting to play here. The Red Sox offered him 2 years, $28 million. He signed with the Dodgers for 1 year, $23 million. That's not even in the ballpark. And they're going to sign Teoscar Hernandez now for probably $25 million a year. They're going to have to sign a 33-year-old to a 3-year contract. And they're going to tell us, well, this is when you all wanted us to sign Teoscar Hernandez. We did it. And then that's going to be like the round of applause for the offseason. So I'll believe it when I see it. Also, on top of all of this, they need pitching. And we've heard nothing about pitching. They don't need another left-handed bat. Like, I'm with Maz on this. I want Juan Soto.
There's a lot of
sense.
Max Fried and Garrett Crochet trade rumors.
Yeah, and they're gonna sign Shane Bieber, who's coming off Tommy John, to a 2-year, $22 million deal that has a team option on the second year, just like they did with all these freaking guys. They don't need another left-handed hitter unless they're gonna trade Casas, which would be creative and kind of daring and would be going for it. But that's not what they do. They're gonna find 25 guys that can put on the uniform and go out and play in front of the tourists. And until I see otherwise, that is what I believe they're going to do. 2018, they had a great offseason. And then it was like, all right, let's see if they can build on it. 2019, they slid back. All right, they just won the World Series. That's fine. 2020, they trade Mookie Betts. I'm an idiot. I believe it so they can keep Xander Bogaerts. It was also COVID year. Okay, you're not going to do anything. 21, they make a run. They overperform. All right, here we go. The Red Sox are back. And then in 2022, it's like they're going to load up, and they didn't, and they lost me. They had every reason to do it that year, and they didn't. Last year, I wasn't going to be fooled by it. I'm certainly not going to be fooled by it this year. That's not me saying they won't do it. I just won't believe they'll do it until I see it. I'm not. They think the fans are so dumb, and I think everybody's onto the charade at this point. Everybody's onto it. Don't be interested. Don't take meetings. Put the check on the table and get somebody to take it. And until they do that, I don't really care. Keep getting used by teams as leverage. I'm not going to get excited about that.
I hope it's different because Juan Soto would be perfect because then you can trade one of those left-handed hitters. But yeah, just it's a believe it when you see it type of thing. Kind of like, this wide receiver hunt for the Patriots, right? It's great that they're in a little different because the Patriots have made it seem at least like they'll pay these guys, right? Like they had a big offer out there to Brandon Ayuk.
The
Calvin
offers
Ridley.
aren't less than half of what the player actually signs for.
Exactly. Their offers are at least competitive, but it's believe it when you see it. You can chase these guys all you want, but you're not going to get credit until you actually get them. Taylor, the chat is asking for your thoughts on the matter. Do you want to see Juan Soto in Boston?
Yes, I want so badly for Juan
Soto.
Juan Soto. Yes, I would love Han Solo to be on the Red Sox.
Solo.
Han Solo. I would love Han Solo. Yes.
Have you been to Fenway yet?
Yeah, I went for St. Patrick's Day. That weird setup they have where, like, if you go in the little, like where it is, like the outside, that thing where you can, like, pee and then you see people outside and you look at them. You know what I'm talking about?
Wait, how'd you go to Fenway for St. Patrick's Day?
It was like some kind of bar crawl thing.
No, but did you go to a Red Sox?
You haven't gone to a Red Sox.
Oh, no, not a game, no.
Okay, no, we got to get you to a Red Sox, and it's obviously too late now, but we'll mix you in with tourists. We'll take you to a Red Sox game next year.
We'll go
That's
on
not
game
even that bad.
We'll go on game time. We'll get some Red Sox tickets. Hopefully one. So I didn't go to a game at all this year, which is like the first time probably in my life because they didn't deserve it. But if they get Juan Soto, I will definitely be at a game. They will deserve it. We'll bring Taylor. We'll go on game time. But Taylor is obviously thrilled with this conversation, so we'll wrap up here. I don't need to talk.
I still think, what was the other one that you asked me about that I said was it was this that I said was a waste of Taylor's time?
Yeah, this.
I don't feel my time has been wasted. More time with my boys is good with me.
I don't need to talk NBA Cup, and the Bruins have won 3 out of their last 4, so we'll
talk to me about the Bruins.
No,
Jim Montgomery, right there.
They've won 3 out of their last 4. That's it. That's it. And they've lost their best defenseman for who knows how long now. So everything's great in the TD Garden outside of the Celtics. But we'll wrap it up there. Rams at Patriots Sunday, 1:00. Barth and I will be back to break that down on Monday. Taylor, do you have anything tomorrow? Or, you have a normal schedule next week, but anything tomorrow with Mike or what you got going on?
Nothing tomorrow. Nothing for tomorrow, but obviously we're going to have the pregame show on Sunday, so make sure to watch out for that.
Perfect. So make sure everyone tune into that. Patriots Press Pass, turn on your notifications, subscribe to the channel so you know when we go live. Taylor, thank you for joining us tonight. And everyone, if you're not following Taylor already, go do so at T Kyles 39 on Twitter or X. You can also follow Barth at Real Alex Barth and head over to 985thesportshub.com for his Patriots coverage up there. And you can follow me at I am Brian Hines on Twitter and head over to patspulpit.com for our Patriots coverage online there as well. So thank you everyone for tuning in with us tonight. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the game, and we will see you guys next week.